Right, here we go. Here we go. I did the trailer for this back in October, and because of various things that have happened to the family and blah blah blah, etc., they didn't get done. So we're now going to do it, and we're doing it from the spacious lounge. Ha 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 ha. You want to see where we dump the stuff? So yeah, we're gonna do a few poems and see how we get on. This is the first of them. We're going to start with the Talking Blues, and we're going to end with the Talking Blues. So get that round your head to start with. Everybody should know what a Talking Blues is. There's been enough of them in musical history, and these are just without the guitar lines, basically. So or the piano lines, because you can do it with the piano as well, but it sounds a lot better with the guitar. But so let's get on with it. Let's start, because otherwise we'll run out of tape, and we'll see how we get on. But this is the first one. This one will be going out on the Peasant Poetry page on Facebook, and I hope you all enjoy it. Thanks to the people who subscribe to it and look into it anyway. And that's where it'll be. So this is the first one. It's called Pip's Dream, a Talking Blues. Now Pip is short for Pipkin. Pipkin was a rabbit, belonged to my two eldest girls. One of whom is now in Madrid, and the other one is now just outside Leeds in the UK. And they used to own this rabbit called Pipkin, and this is about Pipkin. Hi, my name's Pipkin. I'm a rabbit, age 2, and I had a dream that I'll share with you. See, I live in a hutch, and I've got my own run. I can hop, skip and jump about under the sun. I can do it all day, as a matter of fact. It's nice to stop and nibble some grass, or just lick my paws, or scratch at my nose, until the girls come home from school. Then I get let out to play the fool. But I don't. I usually go in the lounge and watch TV after hurtling around the garden a couple of times, just to prove I can outrun them. So I lie on the carpet in front of the screen while the girls do their homework. You know the scene. And they eat their sandwiches and argue so much about who's going to stroke me and who cleans out my hutch. Me? I just lay there, nibbling on half a carrot, what they call crashed out. Now neighbours is finished, and so is their tea, so we get up to play, the two girls and me. I'll chew up the carpet, run behind the settee till I'm caught and I'm cuddled. It's a grand life for me. And because it's raining, they let me stay in later. Suddenly, there on the screen is a rabbit like me, except it's a buck and he's being set free, and a human is saying that they'll strike again till all animals run free in the kingdom of men. It's difficult to understand when you're only a small rabbit. They then showed some pictures that made me feel ill, of dogs, rats and rabbits in cages so still, with no room to move and no room to run, even tubes stuck into the bodies of some. A man in a white coat said the raid was irresponsible and that progress would continue, whatever that means. The girls started crying, and I tried too, but rabbits can't cry. And perhaps it's as well, for there aren't enough tears for those in that hell of experimentation, of suffering and pain. And think of it happening again and again, till mercifully they kill you, humanely. Before I was taken away from my mother and put in a shop to be sold with my brother, she told us a story that she'd heard when younger, about man's lust for land, how it grows longer and longer, and how, when threatened by something he supposes, he'll invent something worthwhile, like myxomatosis, to stop rabbits taking over the world. And it did. It killed off half of us. I was named from a rabbit of Watership Down, but what I saw then made me shiver and frown, for if humans are rulers of this earthly domain, what gives them the right to inflict all that pain? It must be horrible if the girls cried too. Now I'd fight a cat and a small dog too, and if you try to hurt me, I'll fight you too. But my brothers and sisters shut up in those cages with no sun and no sky, the thought just enrages. How do you describe their suffering and hurt sleeping in cages, living in dirt, with no freedom, no future, no life, no past. There's a word that man uses. It's called Holocaust. It keeps the human race pure and uncontaminated. Now I'm back in my straw, curled up in my hutch. Those scenes really hurt us. The girls cried so much. A nibble of food and it's time for bed. But I can't get those images out of my head. They're so sad, like the trees in November. So I fell into a fitful sleep, and tossing and turning I started to dream about cages and animals and death so deep. And when I awoke I felt very unclean. So I wandered outside under the stars, quietly, in the eyes of our Maker. For if there is a God and we belong to him, why should the animals suffer? That's really a sin. There must be a reason why we've teeth and claws and we only eat grass, don't fight any wars. Arguments and scraps, usually with cats, but not wars. So here's Pip's dream, and I'll share it with you. If they build one next to your hutch, would you stand for freedom too? And if by chance it touches you, and your face now wears a frown, tonight you'd let those animals out, and you'd burn those buildings down. That's Pip's dream. Thank you. Yeah, Pip's dream. This has been a request show, as I managed to tell people I was going to do it, and people started ringing me up and accosting me in the street and asking for particular poems. That was the one that got most requests, actually. Everybody else got, every other one that I've got here got one, and this one got 3, and it goes back a long time. It goes back to the late 80s, early 90s, that one. Let's put that over there. So yeah, it's requests. I got a request for this one. This one's called The Insanity Factory because somebody wanted to hear all the words. This one was on the electronic version of this was on the trailer for what I'm doing now, and there's a lot of dub and reverb and echo and all that because I electronified it. But somebody wanted to hear all the words, so there you go. We'll do it with all the words. The Insanity Factory. The Insanity Factory stands high on the hill, belching out the hypocrisy that makes us all ill. It wheezes and pops to the sound of its lies spilling out of the entrance up into the skies, while we watch and we wait to be put through the mill of the Insanity Factory high up on the hill, where the sound of forced laughter still keeps us amused, while being fought over by dogs before we're wrongly accused, by the rats who desert us and who lie to us still, from that Insanity Factory high on the hill. And Plato and Socrates, they heard it too, from the first stirrings of time till tomorrow dawns blue. It's a sad way to die, so they live up there still, in the Insanity Factory high up on the hill, where prophets without honour all stand in a line, awaiting their sentence for another man's crime. Why is it still standing? Is there no one can tell, that Insanity Factory high up on the hill? But hark to the voices that drive us all down. Their vanguard is crumbling, it's running aground, for truth can't be bartered, it illuminates still, that Insanity Factory standing high on the hill. So we watch and we wait till the cracks start to appear. And that might take a moment, it might take all year, but we'll sit here in judgment. Some things you can't kill, just that Insanity Factory high up on the hill. Thank you very much. See, normally you do these things in clubs and you're working off an audience, but there is no audience, so there's only my daughter behind the camera, so it's a whole different way of doing things, and I suppose at the moment with the lockdowns and the COVID and all that, we're all going to have to get used to it. But I'm not used to it, and I'm quite nervous actually. But anyway, requests. I wondered if I'd get a request from this, because I do know that there are a few people from West Africa who know that I'm on that particular site, and they watch things on there occasionally, and I did. So I'm going to do this for them. I did this live on Gambian Radio back in November 2008, and amazingly we got back from the radio station after it had gone out live, and loads of people wanted to talk to me about it, and they all thought it was really good. There you go. It's called a 4-letter word beginning with F, and it's not that one. It goes like this. Not in bondage or under restraint, living under a government based on consent, not arbitrary, despotic or under domination, unconfined, unrestricted and released from authority, at liberty to choose and at liberty to act, independent, unconnected with and unattached, released and exempt, unconstrained and not limited, careless and reckless and unconventional, forward and impudent, unreserved and gratuitous, broad, frank and indelicate, no restriction, spontaneous, not a slave or a serf, but to set at liberty. Just a simple 4-letter word, but it does mean a lot to me. Free. Cheers. Thanks a lot. When I posted this one up on Facebook, a fair old time ago now, or so it seems, a lot of people liked it, because I'm of the age where a lot of people seem to be going through this stuff, and there you go. It's the feeling inadequate and feeling quite alone, despite having family around you and all that. You're just on your own and you're trying to deal with it. See what you think. This was my 2019, basically. It's called The Waiting Room. It doesn't matter where you sit, that word is on the wall. It's stuck up there on posters and directions down the hall. The place is nearly empty, which reflects it's nearly Friday night. Even the staff just want to go home, which when you think about it, it's right. So you sit and read a magazine to take your mind off where you are. Occasionally someone shuffles by. Excuse me, being the only words heard so far. Everybody's on their own, all sitting in their own world. This place isn't like the doctor's, no screaming children here at all. Some are joined by family members who try and give some hope. But every conversation's muted. We all just try and cope. So we just sit and wait till called. For some, it's hard to do. Sitting in that waiting room, scared of the diagnosis meant for you. Cancer. Cheers. But we got through that for the moment, and we're still up and running. I used to work for a council, a local council. Everybody knows where I live, so I'm sure you can work this out. Unfortunately, they don't tend to follow legal requirements, and they have a couple of people in management who turned the other way, looked the other way, and set it up with their own HR department so that anybody who questions it fails. I'm not the only one who's gone through this. I went through it and I just thought screw it, and I quit. But friends of mine have gone through it, and so there you go. Requests. Okay, I'll do this one. It's called duty of care, which is a legal requirement in this country, in the United Kingdom. For those people who don't know, every employer has a duty of care to their employees. They have to make sure that they're not going to die when they're actually out working, or they're not going to get injured. But management still look the other way. So anyway, duty of care. So where'd you hide it, your duty of care? When people need it, it's not there. You'd sooner cover up than lay bare the truth that every staff member knew, that when it's needed it only applies to you. Sat in your office, you're all right. Retire on full pay makes it right. But God help those you treat with derision, lives in danger and your decision. Cover up. Look the other way. Ignore the evidence day after day. Just inconvenience on your desk, but then it isn't you that takes the risk. So where'd you hide it, this duty of care? When it's staff who need it, it's not there. And we all know should take the blame. Management should hang their heads in shame. With HR in on your cover up too, what are the victims supposed to do? Keep it quiet while life goes on, till one person's injured? Well, that's so wrong. And then you'll squirm and claim it's unfair. And all because you hid your duty of care. Yeah. There's a couple of members of SBC's management team that I do not have any time for whatsoever. So yeah, when we did this, we said that we were going to do this this gig, and we started getting requests. We've had to split the gig into two halves now because of the requests, otherwise it'd be too long. I did wonder whether or not this one was going to get any requests, and it did get one, so I'm quite pleased about that, because I do actually quite like this. You all know what a shade is, don't you? I'm not talking about getting out of the, getting out of the sun under the trees. A shade. It's like a ghost. Okay? So now you know where this is coming from. The shade of warfare. As I slowly walked homeward with my rifle and my pack, a young man stopped me suddenly, and this took me quite aback. He could not know I was already dead. He could not see the scars that had covered my whole body since I went off to fight the wars. He first asked about the rifle which I carry on my shoulder. When at first I did not reply, he grew a little bolder, and he asked about the ribbons that my tunic proudly bore. Would he be able to get some if he went off to war? How his family would miss him, but he'd return a conquering saviour. And wouldn't they be proud of him if he went to be a soldier, to fight the foe in far-off lands with not a trace of fear, unlike those who talk but never go, who fight battles from the rear. When at last he'd finished talking, he looked straight into my eyes, and he must have been astounded when he glimpsed the reaper's scythe, for I am every man who has fought and slain and died. I've felt the vanquished sorrow, I've felt the victor's pride, I've felt the rending of the flesh, the sudden loss of limb, the stench of death and its decay as bullets shred the skin. But I had finally relinquished hate, and upon my own volition, before Lucifer had won my soul and damned it to perdition. So I looked at him in sadness, and a tear came to my eye, and I spoke to him in gentleness, for I had to ask him why. Could he not see the heartache he would bring upon this earth, just to maim and kill for decades more? Was that the reason for his birth? For man is not just put here to bring destruction to other races, and he would surely see that if he looked deep into people's faces. For men are men the whole world round, and should this be their fate, to fight for 30 centuries just for bigotry and hate? So go home, young man, and think again. Don't decide in too much haste. This life is yours but only once, and to lose it is a waste. For should you choose to ignore my words and you feel you have to go, just pray you do not see the fields where the wooden crosses grow. Cheers. Thank you very much. I listen to the muted applause in my head. Okay, halfway through the set, which are, I have to admit, are usually slightly shorter than this one. I'll try and put in a funny one. Well, we've got a funny one. It's got a few rude words in, So now might be a good idea to send the kids to bed, or at least put headphones on them. Cover up me swearing, because there are a few swear words in this, but they're there for a reason, because you got to try and set the scene. And when I write, I can write in the vernacular, and this is definitely written in the vernacular. It's attitudinal, I suppose, is the word that sort of fits. And this actually occurred to us. If you've ever seen a film called Sully, Miracle on the Hudson, starring Tom Hanks, you'll know what it's about. It's about a bird strike on an aeroplane, and it actually occurred to us flying out of Banjul in 2018, and it was quite scary. I'll tell you a funny story afterwards too. So, bird strike. So you're sitting there without a care, everything's been battened down. Your seatbelt's on, the plane takes off, you're finally off the ground. 4 minutes later comes the noise like someone sawing wood. I don't know what the hell it is, but I don't think it bodes good. But it's just a noise, so settle down, your 6-hour flight has started. Oh Jesus! What the fuck is that? Don't tell me someone's farted. Everyone's now looking round to check their next door neighbour. But the cabin's aircon spreads it round, and fuck me, does it linger. Rancid is not even close to describing that foul pong. You think that somebody might own up, but in that you would be wrong. Another noise, a little beep, and the captain's on the speaker. Number 2 engine has ingested a bird, which is why our engine noise is weaker. We're going to make a slow descent, so please stay buckled in your seats. I'm sorry that includes the crew as well, so none of us will get to eat. A couple of passengers undid belts, their stomachs obviously churning, but one stewardess just stood there firm, and that lady weren't for turning. Get back to your seats and remain calm. You can go after we've landed. She didn't ask, she didn't yell, but she bloody well commanded. It took us 30 minutes then to turn the plane around, and glancing out the window I thought, shit, we're going down. 1,000 feet above the waves, you could see the ocean's foam. I reached over to my wife's left hand and held it with my own. A sense of calmness overcame us. But how do you tell your daughter? She still had her headphones on, so we decided not to bother. By then the sea had turned to land, and we're coming in quite fast. We hit and bounced and hit again, but the worst had gone and passed. Escorted off straight through the gates and back through immigration. Our crew had done a brilliant job. They all deserved a commendation. And so we sat and sat some more. That really was a pain. 7 hours later we finally climbed aboard to do it all again. Yeah, that's what happens when we had a bird strike. Now, funny story. We're being escorted off through the airport, through the side of the immigration section. I sort of started humming a song to myself in my head, and I started singing it as we were going through immigration. I got up to one particular verse, and Cebu, my daughter, who's recording this, she's walking in front of us, and she just turns around at me with astonishment on her face and says, "Uncle Chris, not that one!" And I suddenly realised what I was singing, because I was actually singing Woody Guthrie's plain record Los Gatos Deportees, which the girls have been singing out in the Gambia for the last 3 weeks. And I'd just got to the line, "Sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon, fireball of lightning, it shook all our hills." And that's what I was singing when she turned around. You couldn't make this stuff up. It's true though, absolutely true. Wasn't deliberate, I hasten to add. It was just the first song that came into my head, and I just started singing it. So yeah, there you go. Now this is an odd one. I got a request to do this specifically from one person who studies Irish history. And they wanted me to do this, so I'm going to do it. It's called To Err in the Side of Peace. If you want the pun, it's to err on the side of peace. But Erin is Ireland, as some know. So anyway, for them, I shall do this. The England-Ireland troubles began before Oliver Cromwell had pillaged the land, but when he had finished and made Ireland too, there was no way the people could live free and true. So you listen to Kavanagh, listen to Shane, you listen to Christie again and again, tales of the past and then shoot to kill, Joe McCann, Kevin Barry and Ned of the Hill. We hanged Robert Emmet in 1803 to prove to the world that the Irish weren't free. In 1916 the troubles began. And we added to them with the old black and tans. How many innocents still have to die, like the 13 killed when the soldiers let fly? How many martyrs died in the past? Excuse me. How many innocent by the bomb blast? So Catholic or Protestant, hold out your hand. It's the first step to freedom for Erin's fair land. Whether Adams or Major, I don't give a damn. But no more wasted lives like young Bobby Sands. For I'd far sooner hear the children at play than the bullets and bombs of the old IRA. And the sooner the better, when all deaths have ceased. Let's put violence behind us and all work for peace. True story. I took 20 odd years to write that. Back when I was just past a teenager, I think it was very early 20s, Bloody Sunday happened in Belfast and was it Derry? Blowed if I can remember these days. And the paratroop regiment opened fire on a bunch of protesters and 13 people died. And in the group of us that were all in the pub, there was a bunch of us, we're all friends. One of whom was joining the Guards Regiment, and he was on his furlough, 6 weeks off before he gets posted to his first regiment, which was in Northern Ireland. And another one of the guys was as Irish as they come, Ron, who definitely kissed the Blarney Stone a couple of times. And we're all in the same pub and we're watching Bloody Sunday happen on the TV screens of the pub. And Paul was in tears, Ron was in tears. Ron put his drink down and said, I've got to go and fight for my country. And he walked out of the pub and we never saw him again. And Paul was in tears and he everybody had to console him, give him a big hug, because he didn't know whether or not he was going to face Ron down the sights of a rifle. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to have to deal with, and it stuck in my head. That and the fact that I know an awful lot of Irish rebel songs. But that's growing up with folk music for you. That's the way things are. So yeah, it took me a long time to get that one out, but it finally got out there. And I'm glad. Sort of brings it to a conclusion, up to a point. Okay, let me get a drink. Yeah, I wondered about this one, whether or not I was actually going to get a request for it, and I did. Not from the person I dedicated to at every gig that I do, and it is dedicated to her. She knows who she is, so I won't mention any names. But somebody actually asked me to do this, so I'm going to do it. And I'd like to just mention Divergence Films, who recorded me doing this at a club, and then put some images to it, and did quite a good job, I've got to admit. So thank you, Divergence Films. Thanks a bunch. It's up there on YouTube if you want to see it. You can either look up Chris Ripple, Street Curse, or you can look up Divergence Films, and I'm quite sure it'll be listed there. Anyway, this is about the homeless, and as I say, it's always dedicated to the same young lady, and I'm dedicating it to her now, so she knows who she is. Street Curse. You tramp the streets in worn-out shoes, dejected, dirty and abused, attracting other people's scorn. You wish sometimes you'd not been born. The wind cuts through you like a knife, while the damp conspires to take your life, as you hide in doorways every night from the drunken thugs who want to fight, while the police force look the other way. What an easy way to earn their pay. And life gets hard now winter's here. There is no season of good cheer. Sometimes a hostel takes you in. For just one night you're warm again. You don't get much, but a bed's enough, and it beats the joys of sleeping rough. You're caught whichever way you turn, as to get off the streets you have to earn. But to get a job you need a home, or at least a room you can call your own. So as you trudge down dirty streets, you beg for coins so you can eat, while trying not to catch the public's eye, for guilt's a look they can't disguise. And most of them can't bear to see that all we suffer from is poverty, while those that cause our misery get their names enshrined in history. They say pride will come before a fall, but now they want to take that and all. And if I should die, then who would care? Not any of you bastards there. But I'm still around, and you've done your worst. And all you politicians, you stand accursed. You could say I was a bit angry when I wrote that, and I was. And I still am. I've got to be honest. So, there you go. This is about what you can and what you can't say these days. It's about political correctness gone totally and utterly crazy, and some people saying this and getting called names for saying it, and other people saying that, you know what I'm talking about. It drives me mad. I mean, we'll get to that. We'll get to this, but that's generally speaking in part 2. So this is a sort of a preface of part 2, because it's not so much an angry poem, it's more I'm not putting up with your crap poem. It's called Targets. And with the advent of social media, there's an awful lot of crap. Think about it. Targets. You can't make fun of princes, you can't make fun of kings, you can't make fun of princesses or any of those royal things. You can't make fun of women, you can't make fun of men. You can't make fun if there is any doubt, because it'll get you in trouble again. You can't make fun if they're ugly. You can't make fun if they're fat. You can't make fun because they ate all the pies. They don't wish to be reminded of that. You can't make fun of gay people. You can't make fun of the straights. You can't make fun if they've not made up their minds, because that's now also classed as a hate. You can't make fun of black people. You can't make fun of the whites. You certainly can't make fun of the Greens, because that could never be right. You can't make fun of a Muslim. You can't make fun of the Jews. You can't make fun of a Christian without upsetting somebody's medieval view. You can't make fun of bacon sarnies, pork scratchings, or any pig meat. Some people think it's offensive, but the majority enjoy what they eat. You can't make fun of a vegan, or climate changers hugging their tree. You can't make fun of pescatarians, although that sounds rather fishy to me. You can't make fun of animal rights, and probably animal lefts as well. Picking on somebody's four-legged friend is a fast track straight down to hell. You can't make fun of a migrant. Who knows what they had to endure? Not every country has freedoms like ours, although they now seem to be getting far fewer. You can't make fun of a criminal, especially if they're not very bright. You can't make fun of a terrorist, not now they all have human rights. You can't make fun of those who do sports, though some cheat and some dope just to win. You can't make fun when they're beaten, as that's picking on losers again. You can't make fun of those who are poor, but you can make fun of the rich. Hypocrisy, I know, but it's the way of the world. So I'm going to start scratching that itch. You can't make fun of the lefties. I'm talking Corbyn and Abbott and co. You can't make fun of those so far up their own arse that dynamite wouldn't help if it blew. But you can make fun of the Tories. That's allowed, because they're right wing and that's wrong. Anyone labelled a fascist or Nazi is a target for everyone's scorn. But this world might benefit if humour was allowed once again its full reign. But there'll always be one who feels picked on, and off we go down that road once again. I think that covers the multitude. I don't think I left too many out. Minority or majority, who gives a damn? That's what this thing is about. Because everyone on this planet's a target for anything they say and they do. Which is why I'm standing here letting it go, ripping the piss out of the self-righteous like you. Got it? Think about it. I'll probably get a lot of flack for that one, but you know what? I personally don't give a damn, and I do have one answer to everybody who wants to pick on me for that sort of thing. It's that. I don't need to say anything else. Okay, my request this time. This is the new Christmas poem. I'll give you a little bit of intro to it. It's called Frank the Christmas Gargoyle. And Frank the Christmas Gargoyle appeared on Facebook just before Christmas this year. And you know what a Karen is? A Karen is an interfering woman. It's an American expression. K-A-R-E-N. If you want to look him up, look Frank and his family up. They're on Facebook, as I say. Frank the Christmas Gargoyle. It's funny. It really is funny. Tragic, stupid in places as what occurs, but very, very funny, and ultimately probably one of the most uplifting things that I've read for a long, long time, which is nice. So anyway, this is the new one. It's the new Christmas poem for this year, or last year, 2020, and it's called Frank the Christmas Gargoyle. Frank the Christmas Gargoyle sat down upon his porch. He'd seen it all by this time and knew things couldn't get much worse. And as he sat there musing, someone came up his path and left a note for his family to give them all a laugh. Frank knew Christmas was a-coming. He'd noticed all the trees his neighbours were busy carrying in, though for some money was a squeeze. He'd seen the lights of decorations and the joy in children's faces, and he smiled warmly deep inside for that time of joy between all races. But it seems there was a problem. The note left no doubt whatsoever. Apparently he was offensive, not Christmassy and not clever. But Frank didn't want to cause any pain, so he got a beard and Father Christmas hat. He thought that would cheer up moaning Minnie, and that would just be that. But that day came another note which offended his sensibilities, and Frank knew he'd have to take a stand before any other possibilities. So he had words with his family, and they agreed they'd lend a hand. There's always strength in numbers when stupidity stalks the land. But first Frank got himself a tree and had it decorated, not realising that in someone else's eyes that would make him even more hated. Another day, another note, and this piqued Frank even more. This interfering busybody was becoming quite a bore. His family called her the Karen, as people like that are called. Not a term of endearment, but one that should appall. And his friends, they came to join him. One by one they appeared. Elves and snowmen, hippos, skeleton dogs, skeleton cats, skeleton rats, even Plague Doctor lent a hand. But Karen was unappreciative. She'd fretted and she'd fumed. And when she turned up with another note, she knocked some of Frank's friends to the ground. It didn't do her any good, because the skeleton dog barked loud, and Karen promptly wet her drawers. I bet that made her feel quite proud. So Frank the Christmas gargoyle helped his friends to stand back up. That Karen had gone one step too far, and she was going to get a shock, because among his other attributes, Frank used Facebook on social media, and he sent out a set of photographs showing up Karen and her Telia. And now Frank's got friends in countries that he never knew he had. The support he now has round this world has made him feel quite glad. Sometimes you have to take a stand to put bullies in their place. It's got to the point that oft times you wonder if they're in the human race. Their selfishness, their arrogance, at times it's just so cruel, and I'm surprised I've actually got this far without one curse word at all. So I raise my glass to you, my friend, and I propose a Christmas toast to Frank, the Christmas gargoyle, who raised our spirits up the most. Salute. Here's to you, Frank. Here's to the family and all. And you've got friends in the UK, where this is coming from. And you've got friends in West Africa. And who have actually seen the posts, because I do share a few of them. Yeah, so if you want to read all about Frank and his trials and tribulations, the one thing I will say about Frank is that halfway through the goings on, Frank's family decided that so many people, 750,000 so far, who have become followers of what's going on and loved what they were doing. Could you spare a couple of dollars, because they live in the USA, could you spare a couple of dollars for the local food bank? And so far, the last time I looked, they had raised $39,000 for their local food bank. Which, bearing in mind, you know, Frank's about so high, and all his friends, apart from Plague Doctor, who's up here somewhere, Frank and his friends, just a set of photographs have raised, and the goings on with the family have raised $39,000 for the local food bank. And I think that's worthwhile, personally, and I salute the family totally for the stand they took, and here's to you, Frank, and I mean that. Right, last one. We're all stuck in lockdown, aren't we? So, can't go out, can't do anything. We're allowed to go shopping, but then you've got to rush off home again. So, the last one. And I got a request to put this one in. It's only ever been, I've never done it live before, it's only ever been posted up again on Facebook on a couple of sites, poetry sites. And so someone said, go on, do it. Alright, I'll do it. So we're all stuck in the same situation, pretty much around the world, so it goes out to all of you, and you all know what's going on, I don't need to tell you. So another Talking Blues, Talking Corona and the Virus Blues, a cautionary tale. Another Talking Blues, that's what I just said. Well, we were feeling kind of low and blue, didn't know what in the hell to do. That coronavirus in the air, damn thing was getting everywhere. And according to the government, me and the missus are on the endangered species list. So we decided to go shopping down the town. Seemed to be thousands of people around. We're both masked up in case it spreads, and maybe we'd have been better off staying in bed, but we needed some groceries. Yeah, I know. You know the feeling too, huh? So we decided to hit the local Tesco's first. I mean, things are bad, but they just got worse, because despite the government saying people should wear masks, you've got half the punters not even taken to task for not wearing one. Coughing and sneezing over everybody up and down the aisles. So we pushed our trolley round and round. We went up some aisles, then went down. I said maybe we could get some booze. A few beers might brighten up the news if things are getting desperate. Things always look a little better if you're a little bit pissed. Well, we got to the aisle, but it was bare. Weren't any alcohol anywhere. Looked up the top and then the bottom. Then I saw the boxes everyone had forgotten, and guess what was written on them? Yep, you guessed it, Corona. Seems like some people don't like the connotations. So we filled up the trolley and went to pay, hoping against hope to get home safe that day. Called out to a friend as we got back to the car, loaded our bags, but we hadn't gone far when the sirens started up behind us, and you can guess whose they were. So I stopped the car at the side of the road, wound down the window knowing I might explode, and waited for the police to come on down, but they're still on the radio and looking around, and then finally one of them decided to walk over and talk to us, and this upright upholder of the law didn't even have a mask on. So I started off politely because I don't need the trouble, and I really didn't want to burst his bubble, so I asked him what the problem was, and he told me I was breaking the law, and that was because apparently I was transporting the coronavirus across a county line, but we'd got frozen food in the back, so I didn't have time for any of his stupidity. I just needed to get it to our freezer. He said he wanted to look in the back. I said no problem, opened the boot up a crack, and he looked at the boxes and said, we picked the right one this time. Do you realise you've committed an awful crime, so you'll be arrested and charged when you're both down the station? So if you'd like to follow me, we can get this situation seen to. So I started up the car and followed him there. We both got stuck in a cell like they hadn't a care, and I'm still wondering what the hell's going on, but it turns out I didn't have to wait that long, because the sergeant came in and said there'd been a mistake and we were allowed to go, but there was one thing I couldn't take, and yeah, you can guess what that was. You got it. It was the beer. He said that would be sent to a government laboratory to be tested and tried, and other things all exploratory, and if it was found there was anything infected, any excuse I gave in court would be rejected, and in spite of Tesco's selling us the case, I'd be imprisoned for endangering the human race. And the truth is, I'd never heard so much bullshit in all my life. And the moral of this story is quite clear. Be careful when you buy Corona beer, and watch what you do and watch what you say, and never tell a friend what I said that day in Tesco's car park loud and clear. Got a case of Corona, so never fear, I'm going to get pissed and ride it out. Because there's always someone out and about who's not got batteries in their hearing aids. So to hell with the snitches and the telltales too, and the neighbours who grass up everything you do. But there is one thing I forgot to mention. I mean, I don't want to make people look stupid, that's not the intention, but if they checked the car's glove box instead, they would have found the remains of the human head from the son of a bitch who tried to grass us up last week. Just saying. Thank you. Applause. Blah blah. End of. And that's it. We're done. Thank you very much for listening, and wait for part 2. Part 2 will not be on the Peasant Poetry site. Well, I don't believe it will be on the Peasant Poetry site. I think it will be on another site, but I will give you a link to it on Peasant Poetry. You can hook up to it. But it's a totally different sort of thing. It's very political. And that's what we'll be doing next. So this is the first one out of 2. And I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. There you go.